Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 7th of July, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index, and we see it's still just holding above the cloud here, but we are back into bearish territory on the short-term chart. That's clearly now this downside target here of 91.28 not yet activated. That's 4.8% downside, and this downside target of 3%. So dollar just back into weaker territory. Key thing is, will we make a lower low? We are in a downtrend in the medium term, which suggests we will, and that really does suggest that the long-term trend will break for now. So that will be interesting to just see play out. And we're seeing that the euro is again conversely bullish, back above the cloud, so euro against the dollar, and we see here a long-term transition. So the euro is now bullish on all three trends. We still do have these downside targets hanging over us, but the fact that we've reversed this one is significant. And if we look at the Japanese yen, we see here the dollar actually is showing its strength. So as whilst the dollar is weaker against a basket of currencies, particularly the euro, we see it is increasing its strength against the Japanese yen. So yen is weaker still. Looking at sterling, we see here we're really just struggling to break this 130 level. We've been trying now for several weeks. We are still bearish below the cloud on this chart. We haven't broken above on the lagging line, and we are still bearish on the long-term chart. Medium term is bullish, but we are just struggling to break this 130 level. That's the level we need to watch. Looking at euro sterling, you're seeing sterling weakening against the euro, stronger euro, weaker sterling. Weakening against the Swiss franc, now in bearish territory on the short-term chart, and against the Australian dollar, still bullish, but long-term weak. So sterling relatively weak, but the Australian dollar even weaker still. Looking at stock markets, the S&P did fall away a little bit last night, didn't make a low below that set last week, but it is just bearish below the cloud, and we are just seeing a little downward pressure. We still do have upside targets and not a massive downside one, but at the moment we are just bearish below the cloud. The Nasdaq is the key that we've been talking about. Nasdaq drifted lower towards the close last night, and we still have these downside targets of 6 and 3.5% hanging over us. Those percentages just changing slightly from yesterday because the price has changed, so we're just at a slightly different distance to the target. But Nasdaq is still looking quite worrying. Certainly the short-term chart is bearish. The medium-term chart, we're coming to test the cloud now. So it'll be interesting. With these downside targets, it'll be key to see whether we get through the cloud on the lagging line. We've got levels of 5.399, so let's say 5.4 and 5.250. So at the moment, the first target would actually keep us on the cloud. The second target of 6% down would take us through on the medium term. Of course, we'd normally like to see 3 trading days, so we'd need to spend 3 trading days below that. We might see a V-shaped recovery if we do get a sell-off in the Nasdaq. But drifting lower, it looks like we'll see probably some bigger moves. The Dow has turned bearish in the short term as well. No clear downside targets here, but it has turned bearish below the cloud. And the Russell 2000 also turning bearish now. So the markets, our US market is looking a little bit worrying. S&P future is below the cloud, up very slightly this morning, but that won't. It's no real heads up on which way the market's going to open. And the Nasdaq up 0.2%, but again a lot of downwards thrust targets on this short-term chart on the Nasdaq E-mini. So it does suggest that US markets are going through a summer sell-off, and we've got further to fall. The FTSE 100 is bearish below the cloud with downside targets not opened yet this morning, and the FTSE 250 also still bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart. The DAX is bearish below the cloud as well, and the Nikkei also bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart despite a weaker yen. The Hang Seng is also bearish below the cloud, and the one market that is bucking this trend at the moment is China. And we see that the Hang Seng, the Shanghai index, is actually bullish above the cloud here with lots of upside targets, so lots of buying thrusts. Chinese are piling in every time there's a buying opportunity, basically, and we are seeing this medium-term chart turning bullish. So China is the one bright spot at the moment, bucking markets. Of course, China has looked worrying for some time, while other markets have looked strong. the reverse is now happening. Sensex is still bullish above the clouds, so China and India, the markets that are outperforming at the moment, and the Australian market has did open much lower yesterday and is bearish below the cloud. So Aussie market looking a bit weak. The crude chart is falling away, so we had this big down move on Wednesday. Yesterday we saw a little bit of a relief rally, but then it fell away at the close. Crude oil is bearish below the chart and falling away, starting this new downward leg we talked about yesterday. And the same with WTI, looking to make lower lows than we saw on that sell-off on Wednesday. Downside pressure still to $44 on WTI, so it looks like we'll go lower still. And US net gas is just hovering at this 290 level, but bearish below the cloud short and medium term. Going straight to gold, gold is down at the moment, down a third of a percent, and clearly bearish now below the cloud on the medium term. The short term also looking bearish as well. So the long term charts still look bullish, but these in the point and figure charts, medium term not so good. The long term chart on the Ichimoku cloud is looking better. So quite a mixed picture, but favouring the downside at the moment. No clear downside targets as well. And then if we look at silver, much the same thing. Taking a look at tech stocks, Apple just testing this 142 level. If we break that, then we look to go lower. A worrying bellwether for the market. The same with Google, and Amazon we're also just seeing drift lower as well. Facebook also below the cloud short term. So most tech stocks now looking quite bearish, and we're seeing here the same with Microsoft as well. So keep an eye on those tech stocks. It looks like we will see a further sell-off in Nasdaq. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.